Welcome back to Living Local. Hero Street is a multi-part documentary series by Emmy Award-winning filmmakers Kelly and Tammy Rundle of Fourth Wall Films. The film, which tells the true story of Private Joseph Sandoval, who was born in a boxcar to Mexican immigrants in Silvis, Illinois, premieres this weekend at the Putnam Museum. And director Kelly Rundle joins me now in the studio. Sir, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of yours, as you know. But let's start with celebrating your recent Emmy win. Let's talk about that. Congratulations.
Thanks. That's always a good day at our house.
And how many do you have on your shelf?
Well, that'll be 3 films that have won Emmys.
Oh, yeah.
Just in the last 2 years. So we had quite a...
Wow.
Lots of nominations, but 3 wins in the last 2 years. Finally.
Good for you. And look, you're such a big deal these days. Wow. So let's talk about Hero Street and the docu-series itself. Mm-hmm. Tell us, for those unfamiliar with Hero Street, what is Hero Street?
Hero Street is 2nd Street in Silvis, Illinois. And around the time of World War I, Mexican immigrants were invited here to work at the railroad. And so initially they lived in a boxcar village that was provided by the railroad. And then around the time of the Great Depression, those families moved to 2nd Street, and that's where our story takes place. Hero Street is well known because they lost more young men in World War II, 6, and then 2 additional young men during the Korean War. And to our knowledge, that's more than any other street in America, but certainly more than any other street of that size. It's only a block and a half long.
And how did you stumble upon that story to begin with? Like, I'm curious how, I like beginnings, like those moments before.
Yeah, I'm sort of embarrassed to say that I didn't know about it when we lived here. We moved away and were gone for almost 25 years. And when we moved back, that's when I heard about it and got hooked up with Mark Wilson's book, Hero Street, USA. And I realized this was a great and certainly a key local history story, but also an important American history story.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Joseph Sandoval's unique World War II story, and what struck you about his journey in particular?
Well, his journey was one of almost not having to be in the service to begin with. Mm-hmm. He had a deferment. He was married and had a small child. His wife was pregnant with a 2nd child. But toward the end of the war, in 1944, there was a buildup of troops for the big push. Initially it was for D-Day, and then it was for follow-up for D-Day. So it was really that need for more bodies to put into the field that meant he had to go into the Army and serve. And
so let's talk a little bit about Elba Day, is how I understand it's pronounced. And how does that tie into the present day headlines? Because I know the film deals with that a little bit. But can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it's something I didn't know anything about.
I didn't either until I started researching
this. And what's interesting about it is just that we're kind of at odds with Russia these days. But of course, during the war, we were allies. And Joe was killed on the Elba River, but then just within a couple of weeks later, the U.S. troops met Soviet troops on a bridge that was just semi-destroyed over the Elba. This was just a few miles south of where Joe was killed. Wow. And they celebrated. They were happy to see each other, happy to have essentially cut Germany in half, and the war, the end of the war, was at hand.
Wow, okay. So Joe Sandoval's story, as I started to read, it was tragic for sure, but it wasn't limited to one tragedy. It was kind of a little bit of a sad situation that he dealt with.
Well, the sadness came from losing his brother in Burma, and that was also in '44. And he found out about it after he was in the service. And then there were others from Hero Street that he was aware that had been killed in the line of duty, and some that he didn't know about at the time of his death.
Yeah.
But I think it was partly just that he came so close to surviving the war. If not for that ill-fated attempt to cross the Elbe that his unit was involved with, he would have survived the war very likely.
Yeah, so to bring this all to life, you used a lot of Quad City performers. Let's talk about who you used. I know Matt Walsh was in it, who's one of my favorites.
Yes.
And who else was in the cast with this, doing the reenactment?
Well, Manny Juarez plays Joe, and Eric, his brother, plays Frank, Joe's brother.
Oh, that's cool.
And Eric played Frank in Letters Home to Hero Street, and so it seemed like a
Right.
good fit to kind of continue that. Matt plays a unique character. There was a combat historian whose report we used as one of the ways to tell the story of that final battle that Joe was involved with. Matt did a great job on that. Everybody did a terrific job.
Yeah. So the big premiere is this weekend.
It is.
At the Putnam. Let's hear about those details.
Well, on Saturday, it starts at 1 o'clock. We have live music by the Crooked Cactus Band. The film program will start at 2. We're going to show the first film in the series, Riding the Rails to Hero Street, and then the new film, An Infantryman from Hero Street.
Oh, that's going to be so great, and I wish I could make it. I have so much going on. But thanks, Kelly, for coming in, man. It was always good to see you.
Thank you.
I wish you guys the best, of course. And
Appreciate it.
you can check out both HeroStreetMovie.com and FourthWallFilms.com for any details. We'll have all those details posted on our QuadCities.com.